Hey everyone, I am Kate Miller. I am joined here today by one of my law partners, Nick Cushing. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Katie.
Hey. All right. So today our topic for the webinar that we are presenting is about the top seven that you need to know about child support in North Carolina. So Nick and I are going to go through that with you. Just a quick little intro of who we are. We're both partners at our law firm at Miller Bowles Cushing here in Charlotte, Austin Davidson as well. Nick and I are both board certified specialists in family law, which means we've been doing this for a really long time. We're older than we look. And we are also both certified family financial mediators. And that means that we get to help folks work through their family financial issues in mediation in the mediator capacity. So a lot of times in mediation, when we're talking about these financial issues, Nick, child support, it's one of the top things that people want to know about and are interested in talking about. So why don't you kick us off just going through what income means for child support purposes?
Yeah, sure. So child support is calculated based on what's called gross income, which is your income before any deductions. So before deductions for taxes, before deductions for health insurance, anything like that. The alternative would, of course, be to use net income, but that is problematic for a lot of reasons because net income is subject to so many fluctuations, right? If somebody is taking 401k deductions, they can increase those or decrease those to affect their net income. People can increase or decrease tax withholdings to affect their net income. And so in their infinite wisdom, what the folks that have put out the child support guidelines have said is we're not going to mess with that. We're just going to do it based on gross. Now, quick point on that, because a lot of people ask about it. People always think it's unfair. Well, why is my child support being based on my gross income? Don't they understand that I have to pay taxes on that and that I have to pay health insurance out of that and all of that other stuff that might come out? Well, that is all taken into consideration behind the scenes in the calculation of how the guidelines actually work. So, presumably I'm obviously not privy to all of the calculations that they use and the formulas that they use, but presumably based on what we're told, the powers that be have already considered the fact that they know you have to pay taxes on that income. They're using kind of broad sweeping averages in figuring all those numbers out. So it's of course not specific to your case, but that all is taken into account when we're figuring out the child support.
Okay, got it. So gross income, not net income. That's the number that we'd be plugging into the calculator. And we should probably point that out too, is that the vast majority of cases is going to be a case that the child support guidelines apply. So you can use the North Carolina child support calculator. And later towards the end of the presentation, we'll get into the actual calculator itself so you can see how it works. So when we look at gross income, we are literally looking at income from all sources. So this is point number 2. If you get money, if you earn money based on your job, so if you're hourly or salaried, if you get bonuses, commissions, alimony from a previous marriage, gifts from third parties, all of those sources of income are included in the income that is put into the child support calculator. So just keep that in mind. The one thing that is specifically excluded, not included in your income for child support purposes, is any kind of public assistance income. So that's not necessarily unemployment, right? But this is more like food stamp type situations, right? Where you get money or assistance in that way. So we include income from all sources when we start calculating that income. So obviously the number of children that this relationship has that we're calculating child support for is taken into consideration when we put those numbers into the calculator. But what about if you have kids from other relationships, Nick?
Yeah, that's a great question. That obviously comes up a lot, right? You could have kids from a pre-existing relationship, or you could have kids from a current relationship.
Right.
And so both of those things are taken into consideration. So as far as if you have children from a pre-existing relationship, your actual child support obligation for those children, so whatever you pay pursuant to a court order or a separation agreement, or even if you just are paying it voluntarily, but you've been consistently paying it for a period of time, that amount is subtracted from your gross income before the child support calculations are run. If you have a child from a current relationship who lives with you, then that amount is, It's a number in the chart that you find based on your income and the number of children. You put that in, and that amount then is deducted from your gross income before the child support is calculated. So either way, it's the same kind of effect, that your income is reduced for the support that you provide for those other children. It's very formulaic. Your actual expenses for those kids don't really matter. It's what the guideline says or what you've specifically been paying.
Definitely. Okay, got it. One of the other factors that goes into the child support calculation is if you are paying for health insurance for the minor children or the minor child, their portion of the health insurance premium that you pay each month, or that's taken out of your paycheck, that is factored into the child support calculation as well. So a lot of times we will see where, it's just kind of a lump number. It's not delineated on a pay stub. So we have to get a document from HR that says, here's how much the insurance is for just the employee, or the employee plus a spouse, or the employee plus children. And we factor out exactly what is just the children's portion of that insurance cost, and we put that into the child support calculator. There's another expense that comes up in almost every single case, work-related childcare expenses. Can you talk about that for us, Nick?
Yeah, so work-related childcare expenses are also included in the calculation of child support, and that would be before school care, after school care, nanny expenses, and even summer camps if they serve the purpose of work-related childcare. And that is sometimes a blurry line between whether the camp is kind of an extracurricular that the child is attending, or if it is work-related childcare. But it's definitely something that can be included if it serves that purpose.
Definitely. And always, we will always tell our clients, tell folks, keep your receipts, keep records.
Yeah.
So when you actually go to court, if you're paying a babysitter, get a copy of the pay or the copy of the check that you wrote to her, or, the Venmo transaction that you sent over. So keep your receipts, keep your records.
Yeah, don't pay your nanny in cash.
Don't do that. All right. Extraordinary expenses is the last number really that we kind of look at when we look at the child support calculator. And it doesn't really come up in most cases. This is kind of near and dear to my heart, because now that I've got kids, I know how expensive they are and that all of their expenses seem extraordinary. But the guidelines and the case law tell us that when we talk about extraordinary expenses, we're really only talking about some limited circumstances. So if you've got a situation where you share custody with a parent that lives across the country and you've got to be buying plane tickets several times a year, that's something that the court can consider to be an extraordinary expense. Some other things that we've encountered would include like special learning tutors or schools if a child has some sort of learning need that they need that special assistance. And then I remember one case, Nick, this is from a million years ago, that actually came through the Court of Appeals. But it was a really expensive extracurricular that the child was involved in. It was ice skating, I think. And this child, it's obviously a very expensive extracurricular sport. And the court did consider those to be an extraordinary expense for child support purposes. So talk to your attorneys, see if they think that it's potentially a good argument for an extraordinary expense, and put that number in there if it's applicable, if the judge says to. All right, so Nick, I am going to do a quick screen share so that we can go through just really briefly, folks, for the child support calculator. All right, so here is, let me do share my screen, and I'm going to pick the child support calculator here. So as you can see at the top, this is ncchildsupport.com. This is just the Department of Health and Human Services, their free online child support calculator. So we're going to just briefly go through a calculation for us here, Nick. So let's talk about the numbers that we're going to be inputting into this calculator.
Sure. So, and let's just make a point real quick, I think, before we start that what you've got pulled up here, and you can see at the top of the screen, is that this is a worksheet B.
Exactly.
And right. And so there's actually 3 different child support worksheets. There's A, B, and C. Worksheet A would be if one parent has primary custody. Worksheet B is if each parent has 123 or more overnights with a child. And then worksheet C is kind of a funky split custody situation that very rarely applies. It's usually a worksheet A or a worksheet B. So just want to point that out, that worksheet A and worksheet B are going to look a little different, just in the sense that worksheet B is going to include a section for the number of overnights.
Right here.
Right there. But other than that, they're the same calculator, basically.
Yep.
So Yeah, you're going to start with, putting in the number of children, obviously, and then the monthly gross income of each parent. And now with this calculator, it's a little funny because it doesn't let you assign the who has custody, whether it's the plaintiff or the defendant. So what you're generally going to want to do, especially with the worksheet A, if you're just using the this calculator, is that you're just going to put the custodial parent as the plaintiff and the non-custodial parent as the defendant, right?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. So then from there, you get into the pre-existing child support payment. That would be the section if you're paying pursuant to a court order or contract, or you're paying a child, for a child from a previous relationship. If you have a child who currently lives with you that you're supporting, then you would put that in this column. So you'd leave the pre-existing blank and you'd put it in this column. If you have a child that you're paying pursuant to a separation or court order, you would put that in the pre-existing, but not in the number of other children. So it's an either or type situation.
Got it.
If you
Yeah.
put them in both, it's going to double dip.
Yeah.
Then we get down, this is the worksheet B. So you're going to put in the number of overnights with each parent.
Let's assume this is a straight 50-50 custody split. So each parent, you take number of children. Sorry, Nick, I just jumped in and interrupted, but number of children times 365. So this one it's 730, and you have to divide those up between the two parents.
Exactly. It's always got to add up to 365 nights per child. And then you put in your work-related childcare costs that we talked about earlier, your monthly health insurance premium. And note that this is the health insurance premium. This is not copays and deductibles and braces and all of that kind of stuff. This is just the monthly amount that you pay for medical, dental, and vision insurance, and for this child portion only, not the total cost. And then you put in any extraordinary expenses. And once you've got that included, you just hit the compute button.
The compute, there it
The
is.
worksheet will pop up. You will scroll to the bottom. You can see in the worksheet kind of all of the numbers that go into it, but at the bottom line 14 there is where you get the amount that is to be paid.
Perfect. All right. Excellent. I know it's pretty straightforward, but it is, if you've never, we do it, we use that calculator every day. We're, it's our job. But if you're not familiar with the form and how it works, that's just kind of a quick little run through of the worksheet B. So thanks for that, Nick. Guys, I'm just going to wrap it up here by putting up one last screen. This is my contact information. If you have any questions about the North Carolina Child Support Calculator, want to ask any questions, this is my email address, kate@nbc-law.com. My direct line, you can call or text 980-321-5572. And I do welcome you to call and shoot us an email, whatever it is, if you have any kind of questions about this, so that we can get you on the right path to figuring out the proper amount of child support for your case. So look forward to seeing you guys next time. Nick, thank you so much for your help today.
All right. Katie, thanks.
All right.